interview, and then the phone call comes and we are offered a job and we accept it. What's the expectation now? Like we need to set up a job plan, what that should be looking like. Well, we all know that if you're accepted a full-time, as we're supposed to, it should be 10 sessions, but I didn't even know what a session was when I was on ST6, I had no idea. So we had to, chat with people and look at how to set this up. So for me, because I did work in BSG education, I knew where to look for things, and there was quite a good article on BSG website and how a job plan should be looking like, and I was adamant and certain things should be in my job plan. But I had this discussion before, of course, I accepted a job, so I wanted a full session in physiology. So that's what my job plan should be looking like. And my interests are very much general GI and neurogastroenterology. And they wanted me for nutrition sessions. So my job plan is very specialistic of three nutrition sessions, 1 physiology session, and the rest of general GI clinic. But you also have to make sure you keep your skills in endoscopy and you get your admin time and your SPA. So it's not an easy thing to do, set up a job plan. I don't know how you did it, but I found it extremely stressful. Probably as stressful as going through my job interview.
I think I approached it from a position of knowing even less. I went to that BSG web page is very useful, and it kind of gives you a feeling for what tariff. You start to hear things about like tariffs, what you're supposed to get back for admin sessions for things. Mm-hmm. These are all things you have to learn pretty quickly. And I think it also depends as well what the department's looking like and how much partly how much they want you to work there and how much they want service out of you as well. I think these kind of all these different things different pulls in different directions come into play. And when you're looking at talking about your job plan, it's difficult to kind of gauge at the start what the expectation is. You don't want to go in being really hard-headed and saying I'm not doing this, but also you don't want to end up with a job plan that you're unhappy with, that you can't renegotiate, or it takes a year for you to get to the point where you can look at it again. So I think it's striking a balance when you're doing it. Once you figure out what a job plan is and what should be in an average job plan for a 10-session job, you then need to start thinking, how are you going to play this? How are you going to go into the because it is essentially a negotiation in parts. The job plan that's advertised is rarely the job plan that comes out. And sometimes it may be quite heavily the job plans advertised are affected by management, and they may be very generic job plans. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a kind of a not delicate situation, but it's a difficult situation, because if you've only just, as I'd only just met people from this department, and then I was going in and saying,
demanding,
demanding, saying, I'd like to do this, this, and this, and I'd like to do this, and and then when something else was suggested, you had to then take a step back and think, well, maybe I don't, and I'm not sure that's for me. And I think the good thing as well is I took time. I said, and I was offered that by the clinical lead doing my job planning was great, and it said, I said, can I go away and think about that, and give you that opportunity, then take your job plan away that's been proposed and say, well, actually, these are things that I think I really do want to keep in or not do, or kind of reduce down in my job plan and things. And I think that taking time to think about it is really important.
It's also, you mentioned about being a year before you can review. That's not actually true. As you start a new consultant, you should be offered a 3-month review in your job plan to see if you actually are achieving what is suggested in the job plan, because we're really bad at working more than we actually were paid for. I don't know if you guys agree, but it seems to be a normal thing to stay up late, at work just to do your admin. We're not paid for that.
No. You can request a job plan review at any time, actually,
yes.
If you're not happy with what's in it. But, this whole process is completely alien to people when they become consultants, and, what's a PA, what's an SPA. I don't know about you guys, but certainly the BSG guidance that you've referred to suggests that you should do, for a full-time job, 7.5 sessions of direct clinical care and 2.5 of SPA. I certainly didn't get 2.5 SPA.
I think majority of people will get 8 and 2, I would say.
Yeah. And I know many new consultants who've only got 1 SPA session initially.
I don't think that's acceptable, no.
Yeah, to build up to that. But, you go into this naive, don't you? So,
I know, of course, yes.
So you have to speak to people. I found that people are very secretive about their job plan. So when you ask other people, other consultants around and about, what's in your job plan, what do you do? Nobody wants to tell you. So you don't really know if you're getting mugged off or not. But I found that I hit the ground running, having been in the same trust as a trainee and having done a fellowship there, which was very busy, but allowed me to get a lot of experience, that when I started off, I was absolutely snowed under because I didn't account for all the managerial service development stuff that you don't do when you're a trainee. And I'm just about to finish my second year as a consultant now, and things have got a lot better through the job plan process and request and review and changing things. And as you said earlier, every minute of your time is documented, right? So you can evidence that very easily with the software that's available to show what you're doing, and it tots up all your sessions. And if you are doing too much, if you feel like you're under too much pressure, you can easily cut back. Many people are under pressure to work more than full time as well, so do 12 sessions instead of 10. I don't know what you guys found about that when you started, and that's to try and balance the services needs with a limited number of bodies on the ground, and that's not something that works for everybody. But
I think certainly I started, I think it was 10.5 sessions I started on, just with on-calls and things, made it up to 10.5. But certainly I don't think starting on more than that would have been good for me over time. And it's only over the 2 years I now do a 12-session job plan.
Same.
But the things I've taken on are education. I've got 2 research sessions. I've taken on things that over time you figure out what is manageable in the time that you have and what you can take on that's going to be manageable. And I think you don't know that at the start. You don't know until you start doing the job what kind of things that you'll be able to take on in the future.
Well, your
and
first
how you
year, you just need to learn.
Yes,
absolutely.
That's what it is, to find your feet on the ground and learn what you're capable of and how things are looking like for you, because a registrar job is very different from a consultant job. The only reason why I'm in 12 session is for money. Otherwise, if I could afford it, I would work part-time.
Wouldn't we all?
Everyone's job plan essentially, even with that first couple of years, has changed from day one as a consultant to what. Even with that, in the first couple of years, things have changed. And so again, when you're going into that maybe job plan negotiation process, there'll be certain immovable objects that the trust really want you to do.
Of course.
There'll be certain things, I guess, they'll be negotiable, and you can, and that's that kind of like give and take about you can work out what's going to be able to be modify your perfect job. But then even when you start, 1 or 2 years later, you're going to be in a very, very different job plan place. And so there is that, I guess, reassurance that it isn't set in stone for the next 20 years. There is the ability to change things regularly, so that you can over time shape things into more, as your interests and your specialities change.
For me, I was very keen to join another specialty for clinics because I think it benefited the patients, but they would not allow me drop in one of the general GI clinics for that. So I had to gather data to show that was beneficial for the department and the patients, and then now they allow me to do so. So of course there is that to say that they're not just going with what you wish, you just have to show it that actually they can create a business plan for you. So that's another thing we don't know about when we're registered, because we are told what to do. So
and I think that give and take's really important. As you say, there's those immovable objects sometimes, and certainly my job plan now, I'm learning a new endoscopic skill, I'm learning ERCP, and part of that is I've been given time to do that, but I'm also using some of my SPA time. So I think there's you have to have that flexibility, and to get to where you want to get to, you need you need to be grown up about things, and by the time we all get to consultant level, where you hopefully grown up, and I think that's the thing as well. Is it's about being sensible, but I think the important thing at the start is not taking on all that extra and taking on too much, because I think that is a risk that you would, if you take on too much at the start, you would burn out. Is kind of a big thing. There's lots of things you don't expect as a consultant. The amount of emails I get is probably the main thing. I think that's the main thing. You go from getting some emails to getting a ton of emails, and it's because people are coming to you for questions that you used to go to your consultants with, but you've also got specialist nurses coming to you, you've got lots more results coming to you because you've got more ownership over the patients, for the patients on the ward and things like that. So I think there's a lot more aspects you don't really appreciate as a trainee that grow arms and legs as a consultant. And,
Absolutely.
you've touched on kind of service development and things like that. They're things as well that you don't, you might have done a bit of as a trainee, but when you're in the department, you're trying to push things forward, that takes up a lot of your time and can eat away at your time where you think you might have a quite relaxed job plan to start with. You fill it very quickly, I think.
So the other problem I've found is that when you start, above all, if you start in a department where you've been a registrar, probably Aaron has the same experience as me, there's an expectation, so you will do things just because you've been a junior there.
Yeah.
And, it's difficult to step out of that role after you've been filling it for so long and be able to say, actually, we're now colleagues and I've got the same rights as you in my job plan, so I shouldn't be just scraping the bottom of the barrel just because I arrived last, So it's a difficult things to do, is it?
Being comfortable and confident in saying no.
Yeah.
I think is something that I've definitely had to learn over the last couple of years. Being able just to say, no, I can't take any more on at the moment. This is,
And no is a complete sentence.
Yes.
Yeah.
When they say, what do you mean? Well, I mean, no. That's what I said it.
You've never had a problem saying that, to be fair.
No.
But yeah, I think developing assertiveness is definitely something that lots of people, again, have to work on.
Yeah.
And there's a way to do it without being, confrontational or coming into conflict with colleagues. But it's a time that's difficult. You have to learn a lot of new skills. There's a lot of things that are very alien at that point, and I think if you are overloaded from the start, it does get pretty challenging. Even doing things like triaging GP referrals, which when you start, you're like, what do I do with this? I don't know, and then very quickly it becomes second nature. But there are all these new facets that come into your job that you don't have any experience with, and I think it is important to protect yourself and give yourself some breathing space to develop initially, and then add in things as you said.
But we talked about it off camera before. It's not like the day you become a consultant, you suddenly are able to do it, and you don't know everything.
Cape and a mask.
Yes. So you need to be able to go and ask people as well. I was like,
I think that's like a supportive environment.
Yeah.
Really important. And that's partly about going back to when you're looking at where you want to work. You want to look at that department and say, are these people that seem supportive, and these people that you'll get on with and want to work with? And they'll be asking the same question about you.
Yeah.
Because in a supportive environment, you'd expect your job plan will actually be something that's they will have given you a job plan they think you should be able to manage, and that they'll be open to asking questions. I think it's the same. You kind of grow into the consultant role, as you say. It's not day one of a consultant. You're kind of a pre-made consultant that just gets released on the wards.
My first weekend on call, two of the other consultants independently came into my room. On the Friday, made sure I was okay. They said, no problem, giving us a ring. It's in the middle of the night. You just want to sense check something, no problem at all. And just having that, being able to say no, but also being able to think internally, yes, I don't know, and being comfortable with that, and actually being confident enough to accept there's things that, there's things that you won't know from being finally a day registrar to first day consultant, and then as I'm sure everybody that you work with will be comfortable that you kind of contact them in that kind of transition period, whilst you're gaining that experience and exposure to all these different things.
I think you can see that even in like really senior consultants asking the opinion of colleagues, and
all the time.
That's where you don't want to end up working in that silo on your own and that's something you develop from day one. And as time goes on, you ask less and less questions, or you hope you do. But you
it's definitely a sign of strength, not a sign of weakness.
Exactly.
Absolutely, yes, I agree with that.
Managing certainty is an important skill for any doctor, but you definitely need it when you become a consultant. So, because people are asking you questions that they're not certain about all the time, and all of a sudden you're expected to come up with the answer. So I absolutely agree with that. And having supportive colleagues is really useful for
I think working in a department where your colleagues are supportive and it's nice, relaxed environment is probably the biggest factor to make you choose the place where you want to be, at least at the start.
Absolutely.
Because if you're working in a hostile place or people just want to be on their own, you'll be isolated and you'll end up stressing out your brain. I wouldn't advise that for sure.